So, you want to know the exact moment I lost every ounce of respect for a teacher? Honestly, respect isn't even the right word. It's the moment I realized that some people are actually monsters, and they don't care if you live or die as long as they look good in front of their boss. I'm not even kidding. This isn't just some story about a teacher being mean or giving too much homework. This is about the time my Spanish teacher, Miss Winter, literally tried to kill me because she wanted a perfect performance review. I'm a type 1 diabetic. If you know anything about that, you know it's not a joke. I wear a glucose monitor on my arm that beeps when my blood sugar gets too low. Usually it's fine. I grab a juice box, I'm good. But that day in Spanish class, everything went south so fast. I was sitting there trying to focus on verb conjugations when I felt that familiar, shaky, gross feeling. Then the beep started. It wasn't loud yet, just a little chirp chirp from under my sleeve. I raised my hand, totally calm. I just needed to go to the nurse or even just step into the hall to eat my glucose tabs. Miss Winter, I whispered, holding my stomach. My sugar is dropping. I need to go to the clinic. She didn't even look at me. She just kept writing on the whiteboard like I didn't exist. She had this weird, tight energy that day, like she was vibrating. Miss Winter, seriously, I said a bit louder. I'm crashing. I need to leave. She finally turned around, but her eyes were cold. Sit down, Maya. We are under a strict observation protocol today. A state inspector is in the building evaluating the school, and nobody, is leaving this room until the bell rings. I will not have you ruining my evaluation with your little medical interruptions. I was stunned. I was like, is she for real right now? It's not an interruption, I'm literally going to pass out, I told her. My hands were starting to shake so bad I couldn't hold my pen. You're being dramatic, she snapped. She walked over to her desk and, I'm not making this up, she took the remote for the door lock and clicked it. We were on the 4th floor, which is basically a concrete bunker. No cell service, nothing. And now the door was electronically dead. The beeping on my arm started getting faster and louder. Beep, beep, beep. It's the sound that means, get sugar now or you're in big trouble. Turn that thing off, Miss Winter hissed. She walked over to my desk and I thought she was going to help me. Instead, she reached down and ripped the sensor right off my arm. I gasped. It hurt like crazy, but the shock was worse. What are you doing? I screamed. I said no distractions, she yelled back. She threw my $200 medical device into the trash can like it was a piece of gum. You're faking this for attention because you didn't study for the quiz. Now eyes on the board. At this point, the room was starting to spin. My vision was getting blurry, like I was looking through a foggy window. I tried to stand up, but my legs felt like jelly. I actually fell out of my chair and hit the floor. The other kids in class were starting to freak out. I could hear them whispering, is she okay? And Miss Winter, she looks really white. But Miss Winter just stood over me. Get up, she said. Her voice was so flat it was terrifying. Stop this performance right now. I couldn't even speak anymore. My brain felt like it was shutting down. I started to crawl toward the door. I just had to get to the hallway. Maybe someone would see me. I was dragging my body across the floor, my fingernails scratching at the linoleum, and then I felt a sharp pain in my hand. I looked down and Miss Winter's high heel was planted right on top of my fingers. He was pinning me to the floor. She actually stepped on me to keep me from reaching the door. I told you, she whispered, leaning down so only I could hear her. Nobody leaves. You are not going to embarrass me in front of the inspector. I looked up at her and I realized she wasn't joking. She was actually insane. She was willing to let me slip into a coma just so she wouldn't get a mark on her record. I felt this tiny spark of anger through the brain fog. It was the only thing keeping me conscious. I looked at the lanyard hanging around her neck. Her teacher's badge. That badge was the only thing that could unlock the door. I knew I only had one shot. If I didn't get out of that room in the next 60 seconds, I was going to die on that floor while she explained her lesson plan to a ghost inspector. I gathered every last bit of strength I had left. I lunged upward. I didn't use my hands, I couldn't. I used my head. I slammed my forehead right into her nose as hard as I possibly could. I heard a sickening crack and she screamed, clutching her face. Blood started spraying everywhere. I didn't wait. I grabbed the lanyard off her neck while she was stumbling back and I dragged myself the last 3 feet to the door. I swiped the badge. Green light. The door clicked open. I rolled into the hallway, screaming for help with the tiny bit of air I had left in my lungs. I saw a janitor at the end of the hall and then, everything went black. I found out later that my blood sugar was at a 19. The paramedics told my mom that I was technically brain dead for 2 minutes in the ambulance. 2 minutes. I almost didn't come back. But here's the crazy part. When I finally woke up in the hospital 3 days later, the first thing I heard wasn't an apology. It was that the school was trying to expel me. Because Miss Winter told the principal that I had viciously assaulted her for no reason while she was trying trying to conduct a state-mandated lockdown. She claimed she was the victim. She had the broken nose and the bloody shirt to prove it. And since I was the troublemaker with the medical issues, the school actually believed her at first. My mom was vibrating with rage. She sat by my bed and said, "Maya, they think they can sweep this under the rug because she's a teacher and you're a kid. They have no idea who they're dealing with." We started digging, and oh my god, what we found was so much darker than just a mean teacher. We found out that there was never an inspector. There was no state evaluation. Miss Winter had made the whole thing up. But why? Why would someone go that far? We went to the school board and they tried to shut us down. They said, "It's your word against hers and we have to protect our staff." They told us that if we dropped the lawsuit, they wouldn't press charges for the assault on Miss Winter. They were literally blackmailing a girl who just got out of a coma. That's when my mom hired a private investigator and a tech expert. We wanted the logs. We wanted to see exactly what happened to those door locks and why the security guard didn't come when the alarm went off. And let me tell you, when those IT logs came back, the whole school district started shaking. It turns out Miss Winter didn't just snap in the moment. She had been planning this perfect lesson for weeks. She had manually gone into the system 30 minutes before class started and disabled my student badge, along with every other badge in the room. She turned the classroom into a prison before I even walked through the door. And the security guard? We found him. He was a guy named Mike who had only been on the job for a month. He told us that he heard the beeping. He saw me on the floor through the little window in the door. He tried to open it, but Miss Winter went to the door and told him through the glass that if he interfered with a state-monitored evaluation, she would make sure he was fired and blacklisted from every school in the state. He was terrified, so he walked away. I'm sitting there in my hospital bed listening to all of this, and I realized this wasn't an accident. She didn't panic. She chose this. She chose to watch me die so she could play act being a perfect teacher. But the assault charge? That was still on the table. The school was still saying that even if she was wrong, I shouldn't have hit her. They wanted me to sign a paper saying it was my fault. I looked at my mom and said, "No way. Let's go to court. Let's show everyone who she really is." And that's when we found the final piece of evidence. The thing that changed everything. You won't believe what this woman had hidden in her desk. So here's where things got really messy. My mom and her lawyer were tearing the school apart, but the principal was still trying to protect Miss Winter. They kept saying I was a violent student, and that the teacher was just following protocol. But then we got the police involved to search her desk and her computer. And honestly, what they found made my blood run cold. It wasn't just some mistake. We found a notebook, a literal physical notebook where she had written down her plan for the day. She had written things like, maintain total control of the environment, and do not allow any interruptions no matter what. But the worst part, she had a sticky note next to my name that said, "Ignore the beeping. She's just trying to test my authority." I'm not even kidding. She knew I was diabetic. She knew what the beeping meant. She just decided that her authority was more important than my actual life. When my mom saw that note, I thought she was going to burn the whole school building down. She looked the principal dead in the eye and said, "You have 10 minutes to fire her and drop the charges against my daughter, or I'm calling every news station in the state." The school finally folded. They realized they couldn't win. They dropped the assault charges against me because, hello, I was literally fighting for my life. You can't charge a person for assaulting someone who is holding them hostage during a medical emergency. But we didn't stop there. I wasn't going to let this happen to anyone else. My mom and I started this huge campaign. We went to every school board meeting. I showed them the scars on my hand where her heel had dug into my skin. I told them what it felt like to be brain dead for 2 minutes because a teacher wanted a gold star on her review. And it actually worked. The district had to change everything. They called it the survival clause. Now, if a kid has a medical condition, they don't have to ask for permission. If they feel like they're in danger, they can just leave. Period. No questions asked. No teacher can lock them in. They also finally fixed the 4th floor. They put in cell signal boosters so nobody is ever stuck in a dead zone again. And the coolest part? Every single classroom now has a giant red 911 button on the wall. If a teacher goes crazy or if there's an emergency, any student can hit that button and the police and paramedics come instantly. As for Miss Winter, oh, she's gone. She didn't just get fired, she got banned. There's a legal order that says she can't come within 500 feet of our school or any school in the district. She tried to move to another state to teach, but my mom made sure the story followed her. Last I heard, she's working in some office where she can't be in charge of anyone's safety. I'm still in therapy, to be honest. Every time I hear a loud beep, I jump a little. It's hard to trust teachers now. Every time I walk into a classroom, the first thing I do is check the door to make sure it's not locked. But I'm alive. I'm back at school and I'm graduating on time. The day I walked back into that space, Spanish classroom, with a new teacher obviously, I felt like a boss. All the other kids cheered when I walked in. They knew what had happened. They knew I fought my way out. Looking back, that was the moment I stopped being a quiet kid who followed every rule. I realized that sometimes authority figures are just wrong. And if they're putting your life in danger, you don't have to sit there and take it. You fight back. You headbutt the villain, you grab the badge, and you get out. I lost all respect for Miss Winter that day, but I gained a whole lot of respect for myself. I'm a survivor, and no crazy teacher is ever going to lock me down again. I'm finally okay, and I'm making sure that what happened to me stays a lesson for the school, not a tragedy. I actually saw the security guard Mike a few weeks ago. He came up to me and apologized with tears in his eyes. He said he's the one who pushed for the 911 buttons because he never wanted to be in a position where he was too scared to help a kid again. They're actually friends now. It's crazy how a nightmare can end up changing an entire system for the better. I'm just glad I'm here to see it.